Good morning. It's Friday the 5th of June. Welcome and greetings from Northumberland on a dull morning but dry so far. I'm back here today. You all know what I'm holding up. It's one of those universal symbols, but it's a symbol that has to have meaning. Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, said to hold this up like this in certain contexts is idolatry, because to hold it up without the context of learning from it is dangerous. I want to look at one of the verses that occurs today. It's from the second letter of Timothy, chapter 3, verse 16. And of course, it's one of those verses that causes controversy, because there are two possible translations of it. The most common translation, the one that's always at the top really, is all scripture is inspired by God and is useful for blah blah blah. The alternative way of translating the Greek, and I don't know enough about Greek to know which is best, is every scripture inspired by God is useful for. So there's a sort of a slight difference there, isn't there? All scripture, or every scripture inspired by God. I think what's very clear is that Paul is saying that God breathes. It's God breathed is the word. God breathes into scripture, and scripture is the product of God breathing into the life of the church. But I think what's more important is what Paul goes on to say. So all scripture is, or every scripture inspired by God is, we've got the question, is useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, so that everyone who belongs to God may be proficient, equipped for every good work. Scripture is supposed to evoke in us good works. Yesterday we looked at that marvellous passage where Jesus says that the love of God, the love of neighbour, the love of self is at the heart of what it is. And it's no good holding up a Bible if we do not take the breath of God that we find in the words of Scripture and let that breath inform, correct, build up our lives. Scripture is of key importance. It is the testimony of the people who experience Jesus most closely. And it is our gateway to the experience of Jesus. It's not an idol. It's a tool. It's not an image that we hold up and place up somewhere. It is a vehicle for the breath of God coming into our lives. So every day, as we take up Scripture, and as we take up Scripture, I think very importantly in the context of our prayer and worship, we let that scriptural reflection breathe the breath of God's life and love into us, so that we are prepared to face the challenges of every day with the breath of God filling our lives, informing our actions, and forming our attitudes, so that we may be equipped for every good work. May God bless us.